Hi, this is Frank Warren, and you're watching Lights Out.
This is FAISAL Khan for Lights Out, and with me via Zoom, delighted to be joined by Frank Warren's latest signing, all the way from the greatest city in the world, Liverpool, James Heneghan, the undefeated James Heneghan. James, good afternoon to you. How are you doing?
Good afternoon, mate. I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you for asking.
Good.
Just start off the interview by asking the first question: why Frank Warren?
I think it was obviously the natural move with me being with Alfie and Robert and Warren Boxing Management. So the transition from Warren Boxing Management to obviously to Frank Warren and Queensbury was the next step, because I think after a fight or two it was getting mentioned, and it just sort of progressed from there really with each fight. And then obviously I found out about a month ago that I'd be signing. Some good news.
Especially at a time like what we're going through today with the whole coronavirus pandemic situation, the sort of up and coming fighters that are still at the early stages of their career really haven't been given the opportunity to box since boxing's restarted. How happy were you to realize that you'd been given that, that big promotion, especially by someone like Frank Warren, especially with what we're going through today?
Yeah, it's a big push, because especially while not a lot's going on for a lot of boxers, and it's uncertain, isn't it? Not many fighters know when the next going to be out. So at least I know coming. Next year I've got a busy year coming ahead. So it gives you another little kick then in training, doesn't it, to carry on.
With Frank Warren, we've seen what he's done with his, up and coming rising stars such as Daniel Dubois, Sharp, and Yard. What's the plan with you and Frank Warren for the next 18 months to 2 years? Has he sort of given you a rough idea of where he wants you to be this time next year? Has he sort of given you any ideas of how many fights he'd like to have you in next year?
Yeah, I know they want me in 4 fights next year, and hopefully by the end of next year it'll be step ups as well, where it's not just going through the motions with the opponents. It's good fights where it'll be exciting to watch, because sometimes it's hard training when your opponent isn't coming to win sometimes, are they? And I think when you've got them 50-50 fights, it gives you more of a push in training, and you've got to be switched on for every second, every round, haven't you? And hopefully that's where we'll be when it comes to them fights.
It's also another reason for the city of Liverpool to be ever excited. I mean, as we mentioned before we started the interview, the best football team in the world is from Liverpool, in the Reds. What side of things, it's massive right now. You've got Callum Smith, Anthony Fowler, Sam Maxwell, yourself. You've got Liam. Yeah. There's some really, really exciting fighters in Liverpool right now. Would you say that this is probably the best era that we've seen with the crop of fighters that we've got coming from Liverpool right now?
Yeah, I think definitely it's definitely up there. Like I think Liverpool's always been a great boxing city, hasn't it? And especially at the minute, you've probably got the likes of the Smiths who are leading the way, and have been for many years, with the likes of Paul first, and then Steve, and now obviously Callum and Lena, the front man for them. So I think, and as well, a lot of up and coming fighters coming through as well. So hopefully there will be big shows coming back to Liverpool.
Yes, I mean, obviously there was a lot of talk, about Callum Smith perhaps defending his world title at Anfield. It's something we all saw. Tony Bellew a few years ago captured his dreams by winning a world title in his beloved Goodison Park. When you look at what Tony Bellew achieved at Goodison Park and what Callum Smith's achieved as well, how much of an inspiration is that for you to go out there and, put your name on the map in Liverpool to become a future world champion?
Yeah, definitely. It's a big inspiration, isn't it? You see, especially when you see people doing well from by where you're from, and it makes you want to achieve what they've achieved. And obviously everyone wants to do good things in boxing, otherwise they wouldn't be in it. So hopefully that's where I'll get to if you carry on.
4-0, as I mentioned, is still the early stages of your career, but how quickly do you want to, push yourself up, get into perhaps, the British title scene, sort of get a strap around your waist by, say, maybe next summer?
Yeah, I mean, if my management and obviously Frank Warren's matchmakers and team think that's what's best for me, then I'll be more than ready for that. I'd never shy away from it. I think it'd be a good step up for me, and I'd always look to be in good fights, and I think I'd take them as they come.
As I mentioned, Callum Smith is a current world champion. I consider him an exceptional fighter. He's achieved so much, winning the world title, winning the World Boxing Super Series. But there's potential big fights out there for him. One of those fights is, Billy Joe Saunders. There's a potential fight with Canelo. Caleb Plant. Jose Benavidez. I'm pretty sure, Callum, both being from the same city. What would you like to see Callum do next? Because again, he's been sort of like kept in the loop as well. He's not had a fight.
Yeah.
He doesn't know when he's next in the ring. There was a potential talks with a fight with Canelo. Where do you see Callum Smith next in the ring with?
I think everyone wants to see him in with Canelo just because stylistically, Canelo's a small, come forward fighter, and Callum's he's a technically very gifted fighter. He's very tall and he doesn't really make no mistakes when in the ring. And for the size and frame of him as well, he punches very hard, which he's shown. So I think everyone wants to see him in that Canelo fight, and hopefully that does come off. But if not, I think the Billy Joe Saunders fight as well is another great fight for British fans, because it's the best fight out there, really, isn't it? Between two British fighters.
Yeah, I would say it's definitely a fight that's ranked highly in terms of, a domestic clash, especially for, a unified world title. And, Billy Joe Saunders, Callum Smith, both undefeated, both considered two of the best fighters in their division. How confident are you that fight gets made at some point? We all know that Billy Joe Saunders defends his world title in a few weeks against Martin Murray. Everyone expects him to come to sort of, beat Martin Murray. That's no disrespect to Martin Murray. How confident are you that fight between Billy Joe Saunders and Callum Smith gets made sometime next year?
Hopefully, you'd like to think so, but it's a hard one in boxing, isn't it? You never know when anything's going to get made, because after 8 years, didn't we, for Mayweather Pacquiao, and you're still waiting for KhanBrook and Amir Khan. That never ever came off, so you can never tell, can you?
When you speak about KhanBrook and Amir Khan, I'm gonna have to ask you as a boxing fan, why do you think the reason is that fight has never been able to be made?
I think it was a tough one. I think it must have been something to do with negotiations, and obviously money must have been a big factor. Then whether it's the right timing for the certain fighters, and I think when it gets like that, there's too many, like the politics gets in the way a bit too much of it. Fights like that just will never get made because of it.
Well, it's certainly a fight that we all wanted to see. There's still hope. We all know KhanBrook takes on Terence Crawford in a couple of weeks. We're not sure what Amir Khan's doing. But yeah, James, final question. What can we expect to see from you next year? What can the boxing fans expect to see from James Heneghan in his first year signed to Frank Warren?
I'm just plans to carry on winning, keep improving, and hopefully start getting in some exciting fights and looking to push towards titles.
Top man. Right, James, before we bring the interview to an end, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, that's it. That's me. Going on, man, a few words, aren't
I? No. You've been brilliant. Well, James, hopefully one day we'll be up in Liverpool and, come down and grab a face-to-face.
Yeah, definitely.
Look after yourself, especially throughout these tough times. And thank you for your time, James. And we look forward to speaking to you again.
Thanks for having me. Speak to you soon, mate.
Ciao.
Ciao.